Hello, everybody, and welcome to Misplaced Musings. I'm one of your hosts, Shannon, along with my co host.
Brian.
And today we're finally back. It has been quite a while. The holidays caught up to us, but we have a few plans, a lot of great content planned in the future. And we're back to let you know that we're still alive, at least last time I checked.
I mean, I'm actually dead. I am coming to you live from the afterlife.
Excellent. Is it like a Deadite style afterlife? Or
No,
no?
no, no. It's actually just like normal life. It's just normal life continued. So, all the people who are like thinking afterlife will be either a paradise or a hell. Nope, it's just more mundane, mediocre life.
Right, except you got a VIP card, and the VIP card is you're dead, so you get to go to a special area, right?
Yeah, but you still have to have a job and pay rent. It's awful.
Beautiful. That'd be interesting. The underworld rent. Who owns it? Who is the the person that is in control of the apartments down there? So going right into it, we have, like I said, we have had a little bit of a hiatus. There are multiple reasons for that. But speaking about the fact that we are back and what we're going to be talking about, we have a really, really fun idea planned where we're going to go through what a lot of people would consider the top games of particular years, starting in 1990. And each episode is going to cover a year. And we're just going to go until we feel like stopping. Ideally, we could go until current time. But as long as the project is fun, we're going to want to do that. And also, because we are giant nerds, we're going to also dig into a lot of the lesser known consoles or computers. I know Brian loves Japanese computers from that time period.
Yeah. And I mean, we can also dig into like other things related to video games that aren't video games themselves, like, hey, this, what's going on in the video game press or video game personalities, important video game related events, things like that.
Absolutely. And what's exciting about it is we have a lot to dig through, which is also part of why we're taking our time. And we wanted to wait until we had a more solid plan in place before we came to y'all, because we want to make sure we do this well. We have fun with it, it's entertaining. And I'm personally looking forward to leaving out things people really like so they can yell at me. That's my favorite part of what we're going to do, I think.
I mean, they're already going to do that because you left out all the years before 1990.
That's true, but I wasn't alive, so I care less.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, and we can always go back to those later on if we feel like it. It gives us some extra stuff if we run out of modern years.
Absolutely. We could go back and talk about things like the Atari and all of that fun stuff. But that is the plan. We're going to do a fun little look at gaming's best selling. Brian actually came up with this idea from a really cool place because a lot of the game of the year stuff happens in December and January. And
I mean, it should
he
happen in January, but most of it happens in December. It's stupid. Anyway,
that's true. And his idea was, why don't we look at what won game of the year for the years, and then we looked at it and realized that that would just lead to a lot of talking about Call of Duty and stuff. And then we realized, well, why not just go over what were big impacts for the year? And then we started digging more, and it's a fun idea, so we're going at it. This is just my really long way of saying Brian is the brains of this
brain is the
operation.
Bryans.
Brain is
Yeah.
the Bryans. I had trouble speaking there, but that's the plan. And so now that we have that all laid out for everybody, Brian, why don't you go ahead and regale us with tales of what you have been doing, what you have been playing, etc., etc.
Wait, when was the last time we released an episode?
I
It was last
think
year, right?
last year in November, I
Oh,
believe.
good God. Yeah, I mean, you know me, I have not been playing anything. Recently released, I'm always like a year behind because I'm busy. So I most recently I played through Death Stranding finally, and I've been playing Subnautica. I started what was it, Two Souls. Been playing a lot of Marvel Snap. I played
How is Two Souls?
I barely started it like
Mm,
this week. I have no opinion so far, other than that it's it's cinematic and
fair enough.
I will get you a better opinion next episode. But I mean, if I
Okay.
keep playing it, I also powered up Triangle Strategy to try that for the first time, and I got to the menu before my baby daughter started screaming at me, and so I had to go do something with her, and haven't been back to it, but I might get to that. I don't know.
Maybe you could have calmed her down by hitting a triangle, the instrument.
Yeah,
It could be a good strategy.
could.
Um,
Jedi Fallen Order. That was the other one I recently
oh, that's a
finally
fun
played
one.
through.
I like that way more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, and if you notice with Death Stranding and Jedi Fallen Order, I chose two games that recently had sequels confirmed. So I kind of operate like that. If a game, sometimes I'll ignore a game, but then if it gets sequels, I'm like, oh well, this is going to be a franchise now. I better go ahead and play it.
That's a good way to do it. It's cheaper too because the games will normally go on sale unless they're Nintendo, because of course. But typically, it's a good way to go. I like to be a little behind as well. Like I'm just getting into Tactics Ogre for the first time.
I envy you for playing that for the first time. I see. I haven't even purchased the remake yet. I need to. But you know that's one of my favorite games, and I've
Yeah,
played through the Super Nintendo and PlayStation version and PSP versions multiple times. So
yeah. I was in. Well, I still am in love with it, but I got distracted by Chained Echoes while playing in more of one of the downtime areas at the end of Chapter 3 of Tactics Ogre. And then Chain Echoes came and swept me up, and I can talk about that a little bit more when I go over things. But I beat that, and that was an interesting experience. But
yeah,
yeah,
I've heard great things. Pretty much everybody in my social circles on the internet is either recently played Chained Echoes or is currently playing Chained Echoes.
yeah, I have some thoughts that I want to go into. I wish you'd played it so we could do a little bit of a spoiler cast, but we're
I
not going to
mean,
be able
I've
to do that.
played a bunch of Super Nintendo JRPGs, so I've played it, right? Isn't that what I hear from people?
Oh my god. Anyway, what else you got for us?
Oh, I mean that's pretty much it. For video games. That's pretty much it for me. I mean, I've bought some more retro hardware because I'm always doing that, and I've been working on stuff like that. I finally got my Etsy shop going so that I can sell modded
Excellent.
or restored old game crap. And then other than that, it's just been the usual human stuff, work and holidays, and you know reading books, watching movies, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I need
Uh,
to actually get the book for my works book club going.
you have a
Speaking of
work
that.
book club? My work does nothing cool like that. A bunch of lame people. None of them listen to this, so that's But
Yeah, same on my end. I'm safe, I believe. I can call as many people lame as I feel like. But with that, I think. Oh yeah, I did want to ask a question. Death Stranding. I still have not played it. I am curious about it. What are your overall thoughts since you completed it?
I mean, I loved it, but so gameplay wise, it's it's awesome. It's a Kojima game. The attention to detail is insane, and all the little systems and subsystems of subsystems and stuff that you can engage with are awesome. The plot, the writing, and the dialogue are all also like very very Kojima though. So if a person has played like Metal Gear Solid 4 or something and is like I cannot stand this, they will not like Death Stranding. My wife was watching me play it and she was just like, this is the most like pretentious fan fiction like game writing I have ever heard. And I liked it. but I like that kind of stuff. So if
Yeah,
well, I can say that if you're a person who either is indifferent to or likes like the dialogue and scripts of like Metal Gear games, then you will like this too. Um,
excellent. That actually is pretty glowing. I'm gonna probably pick it up when I have a little bit more flexibility in my game catalog, I think.
the story was like it didn't connect to me initially, but it does eventually. Initially, it didn't have the nostalgia factor of being a Metal Gear game. So some of the stuff like it's called Death Stranding, and you're working for an organization called Bridges, and the main character is named like Sam Porter Bridges, and you're and I was just like I I hate this. But eventually it clicked.
Okay,
Um,
awesome.
it is because it's I guess it's open. It's not really open world, but it has big environments like sandboxy. Uh, and there's a lot of little side quests you can do. So it is a thing where the story itself probably isn't terribly long, but if you get distracted doing all the like side quests and trying to fill up all the little you know meters and things, then it's gonna feel way longer. And I could see some people probably like burning themselves out, like like typical open world type game stuff where you spend too long grinding on side quests and then you're like, I don't like this.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I'm very happy I don't have any of those games I'm currently playing. Actually, they can burn me out quite a bit in general because I try
Yeah,
to run around and do everything.
I mean, I'm learning to like that was one of the first games like that where I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna at some point I was like 40 hours in and I was like, I'm just gonna finish this game like rather than go try to like because there's like relationships you can build with people based on doing like deliveries and side quests for them.
Oh,
And
cool.
I was like, for a minute there, I was like, I'm gonna max all these out and get all the little rewards and stuff. And then at some point, like 40 hours in, I was like, I'm just gonna beat it instead and not do that. And that is not traditionally how I play these kind of games, but I guess maybe I'm finally learning that I don't have to 100% everything.
Yeah, sometimes you need to just beat it.
Well, yeah, I was like, I
You
mean, I
know?
don't want to spend 200 hours on this. I have too many other games to play. And,
Yeah,
am I really going to how much like value am I going to get from like maxing these out? Is that the part of the game I'm going to remember?
there's a lot to it that when it comes to how you want to use your time and how you view length in video games, that's a whole other discussion that we could get into.
Yeah, some other time, an episode
Hmm.
about like video game, trash or treasure, video game bloat.
Perception of length is a really interesting topic. I started realizing that people cared a lot more about that than I did around the BioShock era
I
because people complained about the length of BioShock when it was coming out.
I think our generation though, because I don't know how the younger generation is on it, but I know ours. Like it seems like we were all super into like long games when we were like younger, like teens and 20s. It was like a selling point was like 100 hours of content, and we were like, yeah. And now I see as we're getting older, our generation, a lot of us are like, I would rather play a 12-hour game. I don't want to play a 100-hour game.
I definitely see that, but I also see people complain about length a lot still, even in like RPG situations. The big one is the Square Enix games that came out over
Yeah,
the last few months, where people complain that Harvestella was $60, right? And they're like, it's a shorter game, it doesn't have the same polish, and I'm like, but it's still like 20 hours and you're doing a lot and people enjoy it, so why wouldn't they charge full price for it? What makes it lesser? Is it because of it doesn't have Final Fantasy 15's graphics? Is it because it's a shorter experience? Is it because people have these bizarre ideas of what a $60 game should be and
that's
didn't
it.
and didn't grow up in the Super Nintendo era where games were like $80 randomly for no reason.
I mean, that's it. And people are just we could have a whole episode over that. You're right, because people are all over the place with like value and their concept of it. It's like
Yeah.
you can go out to the movie and spend like $40 like for you and your whoever you're taking, or
Yeah.
you can go out to a nice restaurant and spend like $50 or $60, and it's literally like an hour or two of entertainment, and you're fine with that. But then whenever somebody's like, hey, this game will give you 15 hours of entertainment and we're going to charge you $60, you're like, oh, that's bullshit, and it's like, dude, that's 15 hours, like
Yeah.
that's
Even
totally
6
worth it.
hours,
Yeah.
right?
Like if it's values a weird subjective thing, and it would be interesting to like look at why different people feel differently. I think a lot of it just has to do with people, like, entitled's not the right word, but people don't they want to spend the least amount of money they can, because our you know people are broke, like it's hard to
Yeah.
it's so you would
Capitalism's the devil and we all have to live with it. Yeah,
and video
exactly.
games are fun, and you would rather spend less money for them than more, but
Yeah,
uh
no.
it's a
Like,
whole thing. I don't know.
exactly. Speaking of that perception, do you mind if I go into a couple of things that I've been playing?
No, I do not mind.
So it fits because part of that is I've been playing Soul Hackers 2 on occasion.
Boo, I heard that game's terrible.
Yeah,
I'm
your
kidding.
face is terrible.
It's like a 7
But
out of 10, right?
uh, so y'all probably don't remember, but I hate scores. I don't like scores on reviews. I don't like calling something AAA, B, C tier. I hate all of it because I view it as such a subjective thing, and scores don't do anything for me. If 80 people give something a 7, but I love it, what's it matter if 80 people give something a 7? And is 7 bad? That should be above average.
It
I'll
should be.
get
We that's
oof.
a whole thing. The fact that, I
Yeah,
mean, people talk about it. The fact that like the 5 or 6 out of 10 is actually the 1 out of 10, and so and these numbers are arbitrary, and it's not like different publications have like a unified formula for reaching a
correct.
review score. It's just kind of a how they fill. And so one person's 7 out of 10 is not the same as another person's 7 out of 10, and it's a whole thing. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, it's I
We could have a
actually
whole episode on that too.
absolutely. And my last thing I'm going to say on that before I move on to how I feel about Soul Hackers 2, spoiler, I like it a lot. Is that I I do not like how people utilize scores because they're kind of pointless. If you go in and just look at people with scores and don't even read what they're saying or read part of it and then jump to the end, you're not getting anything. You're just getting a score that somebody gave it. The most that you can do is understand that this person usually agrees or disagrees with you and utilize that to see if you like a video game or not. There's that famous movie critic that people use that is typically so against what normally people like that if he really likes a movie, people know it's bad, and if he doesn't like a movie, most people will think that it's going to be a good one. I forget, it's like Armand or something. I forget his name,
Yeah,
but
I think I know what you're talking about. And
like, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I do agree mostly. I like we obviously reviews important because it helps people make decisions with their like finite amount of money, but it is like people tend to get too I don't even know what the word is, but it's like they get too rigid about it, and they're like, well, I'm not going to spend my money on anything that's like
Below a 7.
less, yeah,
Yeah,
or below an 8, and I'm just like, okay, but I looked at your list of favorite games, and you have some on there that are like 6s and 7s, and like, why would you think, if those are some of your favorite games, why would you think that a 7 can't be good enough for your money if previously
a
you
7
have
was good
enjoyed
enough for
those?
your
Yeah,
money. Yeah,
and
no,
it
and it's also something that bothers me is people that say scores are important and stuff will also like skim over stuff. And this might come off as mean, but if you don't have time to fully read a review, if you say you use them to help your purchasing decisions, you don't have time to play the video game. I
yeah,
think,
I could feel that.
yeah, I think
I
that's ridiculous.
I think it's fine for people to care about scores. I just think people as a group care too much, and they also like the discourse on the internet around scores, it's not a recent thing obviously, and everybody knows, but it's
Right.
not the best. It's like it turns into the worst kind of stuff around games that either people think got too good of a score or didn't get a good enough score, and so
Yeah,
people care way too much about it because it's you know
absolutely. No,
that's yeah.
it's not the best, but you know what is the best? Having a group in an RPG coming out of Japan that are all adults. It's great. And that happens in Soul Hackers too.
You're
You
a
have
liar.
you have a team of 4 people. One of them, I guess, is technically a year old, but she's like a cybernetic AI thing. It doesn't
Oh,
count.
so it's like the
And
reverse
then
of the trope. Instead of being like 1,000-year old and looking like they're
yeah, you're a 1 year old
one,
and
they're
look
one
like you're
year
in
old
your
and look like an
20s.
adult. Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And then the other people are adults. They're not in school. They all have lives, jobs, things going on. And it's great. I love the talk between everybody, the back and forth. The part that people complained about, I didn't deal with because I got an post patch. So there's a run button, which is cool. They patched in a run button because everyone complained about your speed that you walked.
I get that. I hate slow walking speeds.
Oh, absolutely. But it's fun. It's not the press turn system, but you know what? Every SMT game does not have to have the press turn system. Not every SMT game has to have this giant plot line that's always apocalyptic.
No,
Even
they
though,
all have to be freaking Persona now, man.
oh my god, they also don't all need to have dating mechanics.
You take
That's
that back, you son of a bitch. No, I'm kidding. I know how you feel about it, and your opinion on them is valid. I don't know, but
yeah, no, I totally get that people want to because they don't enjoy their lives and are trying to escape in a digital world. But I am actually well put together as a person and don't need to date fake people. So
wow. I just like having more systems to engage with. Okay, it's another little thing that I can you know engage with and try to max out or whatever.
right, yeah, I'm obviously being silly, but it's it's a fun little game. I need to put some more time into it. I'm also playing Tactics Ogre, which
I just want to revisit real quick the fact
yeah,
that you said this has adult cast with like jobs and stuff, and I've thought about this year or last year, I guess,
yeah.
because people have talked about what about why can't we have like a Persona with an adult cast, and I'm like trying to insert myself into the idea of that, and I'm like, if something happened where I was suddenly thrust into an adventure, I don't think I would have time for it. Like, I would flake if I were in the Persona game and they were like, all right, it's midnight, it's time to go to Tartarus. I'd be like, yeah, I'm busy. I don't know. Hit me up tomorrow. Like, I don't know how as an adult how you fit a JRPG style adventure into your life.
Well, you have to do it or the world ends, or you have to do it because your family got kidnapped or something.
Well,
Like
honestly,
that's how you do that.
if it's a group of like 5 American millennials, I think the world will end.
Potentially. I mean, I would totally do it. I'd go out there.
I would try, but then, I would have no sleep and yeah, I would just get killed in Tartarus. I
Right.
would like fall asleep fighting something. I don't know.
And just
Um
pass out. But no, that makes sense, but that's also with decent writing something that you could probably alleviate.
I
Make
mean,
it
I
make
have
sense.
actually with decent writing, I want it to go the opposite way. I've talked about this. It could be compelling to like how you have to balance in a Persona game, you have to balance like social links
Yeah.
and going out into Tartarus or doing this or doing that, and you have to like pick and choose what you can do because you
Mhm.
can't do everything. I'm like, the layer of an adult life just adds more of that, where it's like, do you concentrate on work because you need a promotion, because you need a raise, or do you do the bare minimum at work because you want to spend more time building social links or whatever? Do you let your relationship with your significant other or your children suffer,
Mm.
or do you prioritize those, and your relationship with your party members suffers? It just adds more things to the more factors to the game that you would have to pick and choose, and
Huh.
then they should definitely have a stress meter.
I mean, I think that's all something that could be an interesting idea if it's utilized well. Like it, I like games that have things like stress meters or sanity meters. In fact, it's part of why I like Shadow Hearts as much as I do.
I mean, everybody
Yeah,
loves Shadow Hearts.
I don't know, man. I had to defend that a lot when it first came out.
Well, those people were stupid.
That's fair. I'll give that to you. And to continue on, Tactics Ogre, real good. Don't want to waste a lot of time on it. Everybody knows that game is one of
Excuse me,
the
no time spent on Tactics Ogre is a waste of time. But yes, it is
yeah,
awesome. Best TRPG.
yeah, it's one of the better games I've played
Best
in that genre.
TRPG.
It's
Best
one
TRPG.
of
Best.
the. All right, we're gonna continue on here. Uh, it is a very good experience. I'm really happy to be playing it. The only thing is I don't like that there's a cap on levels. I hate it. I want it to go
Yeah,
away.
in the
But
remake. Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's one of the things that when I found out about that, I love to grind and I love to have like overpowerful characters
Mhm.
who I unlock all the things I want and, whatever. And to have like a limitation on that does sound irritating.
It is, but it's still a really, really solid video game. I've also was playing Shining Force 2 for the first time, which
Nice. Have
I
you played
have been enjoying.
one? I assume you've
Yeah,
played Shining Force. Okay.
yeah, I have. I played one and I played one on the GBA.
Now you can you can play 3 and then you can go on to all the Shining Force games that actually aren't Shining Force games.
I actually really like Shining Soul on the GBA, and you can fight me.
I
The,
mean, that's fine. Like you're allowed to like it. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when most people fans of Shining, usually are in like two camps, and it's like Shining Force 1, 2, and 3, and maybe like Shining in the Darkness, and then everything after that sucks. Or they like the modern games, and they're like, you know, but that's a weird series that no one really like. No one I follow really talks about.
yeah, it is one of the lesser known series, and then but it's one in that weird place. I was actually talking about that today when I was streaming about how some games are in that middle spot because I streamed Skyblazer today, and it's kind of in that Demon's Crest area where people that are into retro gaming, know what it is. So you can't really say it's a hidden gem because anyone that kind of dusts off the hobby will see stuff like that. But for a lot of people, it is hidden because they're not going to know about this platforming game from like 1993 that didn't sell well.
Yeah, I
You
was I
know,
was gonna say that there's also like I just looked at the Shining like Wikipedia and there are like 20 games.
there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, people like you said, like people may know like Shining Force or like Shining Force 2 or
Hmm.
3 or something, but then you're like, what about Shining Resonance Refrain or Shining Arc or Shining Force Cross? And that's an arcade game. What?
Yeah.
And people are like Shining Force Chronicle 3, like all these weird. No one's heard of these.
Yeah, and that's the
Um,
thing too, right?
yeah,
Is it's a series that tried to fight Fire Emblem and lost. And
that's fair. Yeah,
because if you look at the way the game plays, it plays exactly like old Fire Emblem, except easier, which was the idea. They wanted to have an like something for people to buy Sega consoles that was like Fire Emblem but more accessible. And if you
yeah,
wanted less accessible, you could just play Langrisser or Warsong, right?
yeah. And then you know, uh, Ogre Battle. I would say Ogre Battle's more Fire Emblem than Final Fantasy Tactics, but then obviously Tactics Ogre they decided we're not gonna keep with that and we're gonna do something different,
I
more
would say
tabletop gaming.
Ogre Battle's more RTS than Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I mean but it's definitely not. It's a T. I mean, it's considered a TRPG, and it doesn't fit in the same tree as Tactics Ogre. So I'm like, what tree does it fit in?
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's true. And Tactics Ogre is funny because it made its own tree, but it also pulls from Fire Emblem, which a lot of people like to say there's Fire Emblem style or like Tactics Ogre.
by a lot of people, you mean me, like
Uh,
yesterday.
Yes, but you're not the only one. Or like more people. Well, people will say less Tactics Ogre typically, and will say Final Fantasy Tactics versus Fire Emblem style. And
And then there's like the third tree of like Western like XCOM style crap.
yeah, but we don't talk about bad things. And
Whoa.
I'm kidding. XCOM's fine. Um, but I'm actually loving Marvel Midnight Suns right now, which
I
is
didn't even know that was that like I didn't pay attention to that game
oh, what
until
was
like
that company? Yeah,
the other day. Well, no, I didn't even know it was that genre until the other day, and then I was like, "Oh, this is like a XCOM style thing."
yeah,
Okay.
it's card game XCOM. It's fucking great. I love it.
I,
Um,
I mean, I will probably check it out when it inevitably, gets put on some ridiculous sell in like 2 years.
it was already on a really deep sale. That's why I bought it.
Or since lots of other Marvel games are part of like PlayStation Plus
It'll
catalog,
probably be there
yeah,
eventually. Yeah. It'll probably be on Game Pass. Nope.
I just can't. I have too many subscription services already, and I know I won't use Game Pass if I subscribe to it, and so
Yeah, I used Game Pass, and to do that, moving on to the next thing I played, because it's the one that I want to talk about the most, is Chained Echoes.
what
So,
is this Chained Echoes, man? Which I
ooh,
keep accidentally calling Crimson Echoes, and like the freaking Chrono Trigger
yeah, the Chrono Trigger
fan sequel.
fans, yeah.
Yeah, I keep
Well,
saying Crimson Echoes, and people are like,
your
"That's not it." Yeah,
your clan is called the Crimson Wings, so there you go. That's
a lot of DNA there, a lot of
yeah. So that's actually a big thing. Is the game was made by a single person over 7 years, and it's a big love letter to JRPGs, right? I hate that term, but it's the easiest way to get it across.
love letter or JRPGs.
JRPGs.
You hate the term JRPGs.
I do. We've
We'll
talked about
do.
this.
We're gonna have a
Yeah.
genre episode at some point and fight over all this stuff, but
Right.
go on.
Yeah. So stuff like Chrono Trigger and FF6 and Suikoden and all that's all part of it. And you can see all the DNA in this game. And it's one that I thoroughly enjoyed playing. It starts by spoofing Chrono Trigger right away. Your mom wakes you up and then actually, oh no, I'm not sitting in bed. I'm in a giant airship filled with mercenaries. Like it's a very fun opening. And you can see all of the influence. And I feel it does it in a way that I enjoy, but I also like reference. I don't view it as a negative for something to show its love for source material on its sleeve. I think if somebody doesn't enjoy that, that's fine. You can go ahead and be the person that goes to parties that's boring, and I'll still enjoy myself and have fun with the things I play.
You mean you don't like the guy who's always like, well, it's just derivative of blah blah blah.
We have all these things that could be entire episodes because I would just rant for 30 minutes that keep coming up. I hate the term derivative negatively. And I know
I,
it comes off negatively. That's how it's been used. But
so it can. The thing is,
uh
I think the derivative is negative. I think
right.
that people think anything that borrows from something is derivative, and that is not the way that word is intended to be used. Um, but go on. Like an homage is not derivative. I mean, it could be, but people tend to use derivative as like, anything. And it's like, oh, this is a Mario style platformer. Oh, it's just derivative of Mario. And I'm like, no, it's trying to be a Mario style platformer. That's not just, ugh.
Yeah, but that's the thing is it is derivative of Mario, right? So if you go by
Mm.
the actual definition of derivative, it just means something that's based on another source.
I
It
mean,
has a
I'm just going
negative
with the social,
yeah, I was
the
gonna
way it's
say
used. Yeah.
there's a negative connotation to it, but that's because we put it there. And then that's how words evolve, and that's fine. But the thing is, it's not negative to show that you're like something else that you're influenced by. And so all these jokes, all these references, all the systems are very much ingrained in that 16-bit RPG and 32-bit RPG like love letter. You have something that works kind of like the bases in Shining Force or Suikoden or whatever, where you can actually get people that are not part of your fighting party to be part of like a clan, and they do different things for you, like sell items or make it so that your abilities cost less overall because they're at your base, etc., etc. And you slowly build that up, and it's this narrative, that's the weakest part of the game, in my opinion. It does some interesting things.
That's funny because when you were describing that, I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome."
uh, the base thing is great, and there are some parts of the storyline that are pretty good, but for the most part, it's not the best plot that I've ever seen, which is fine because the systems hold it up a lot. And this isn't supposed to be like a big review, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But it's turn based. Your order is determined by your speed statistic, and you can see your order on the top of the screen on who's going to go next. So you can plan things out that way. And then there's this bar called the overdrive bar that slowly fills up as you do things. And there's a sweet spot. And that sweet spot makes it so you take less damage, your abilities cost less, and you do more damage. If you're before the sweet spot, everything is neutral. If you're past it, it goes into something called overdrive. Uh, like the overdrive goes past the point it's supposed to, and you end up taking more damage, dealing less damage, and things cost more. So you're trying to keep it in the sweet spot, and part of how you do that is on a 4 turn rotation. Certain types of abilities like magic or debuff or physical will move the overdrive bar backwards instead of forwards. So you're not only planning your turns to do damage and stay alive, you're also planning them to keep the overdrive in the sweet spot so you can be the most efficient and not take extra damage.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun system, and it kept it engaging until I busted it open. But that's part of what makes the system fun is there are a lot of different builds you can get because instead of normal levels, it pulls from Chrono Cross, and you get these grimoire shards that work like stars that you can use to level up skills, which will also level up your stats once you level the skill up. So it's kept very much, there's not a lot of grinding that you do except to get skill points to make your skills a little bit better. But to get skills to begin with and to get stats, you have to use these grimoire points, which you can only get from either completing particular quests, filling out your license board, which you do by doing side quests and little challenges, or by beating bosses. So you can't just grind it out like you can normally grind levels.
Hmm.
But what you can grind is skills, weapons, and armor, and gems for a really convoluted system that ends up not actually being helpful at all. Where you can put gems in your armor and weapons to upgrade them, but you get weapons so quickly that the gems end up becoming kind of pointless until you get to your end game stuff, and then you can take the time to do it.
Hmm.
It's sort of like putting runes in early things in Diablo.
I was gonna say that sounds like how I play Diablo, where I
Mhm.
just hold on to my gems until end game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to avoid spoilers, I won't go into details with why I don't like some of the writing decisions, except that the ending made me actually scream at 1 o'clock in the morning at my monitor because I was that upset uh, about the decision that they made at the ending.
So
So
it doesn't stick the landing.
it does not, at least in my opinion, and it leaves a few threads very open. But overall, though, all things considered, one person wrote it, did most of the ideas for like all the game design decisions, and the art is beautiful. And the person that they got to do the music did a wonderful job. It was mostly a one man show, and that's just impressive. It makes me view it a little bit differently, where I normally like to just be like, I like to just judge everything based on not knowing anything about it. And part of that is because I do have these biases. If like one person does all this work, it's impressive to me. Kind of like Dopey Fox with Undertale, or Dan that did a Doki Doki Literature Club. Like these people that put all of this effort and passion into these games, and they come out, and Chained Echoes is, I know I just said those negative things, but it was a phenomenal experience. I loved the combat, the way it looked, the backgrounds in that game are gorgeous. So overall, good experience. I'm glad I played it.
I mean, it sounds like an 8 out of 10, which I don't know if that's worth the money. No, I'm kidding. It sounds good. Like I was already sold on it before this, but I, you know, sounds good.
Yeah, no, It does. And I want to bring up the music again. There's some tracks that just you can get classes in the game, and part of how you get classes is you have to do these particular challenge fights. And there's the track just for those fights is an absolute banger.
Wait,
And
is that an optional system?
the class system, yes,
Yeah. Huh.
yeah,
That's unusual.
it is. You can do it, and if you level the class all the way up and max out the skills, you can equip the skills without the class being equipped.
Ah.
And what classes do is they give you particular stat boosts. Like, for example, Sienna is your roguish character. She's very fast and it does a lot of damage based on agility. And you can equip a class that gives like a tier scaling in agility to get higher agility for the character. And but take skills from other classes that you feel are more useful because you don't need her to have a steal skill because she already has one, but you want the stat boost from the class. So you can do fun stuff. It's crunchy. There's a lot of fun crunchy stuff in there.
I do like crunchy games.
Yes, but that was Chained Echoes, something I really enjoyed, and I started up Borderlands 1 again.
Why?
So I was thinking about how it felt so different than the other games. So I wanted to like confirm that with myself, and I was right.
Yeah, it does. I
Yeah,
mean, I love two. And I mean, I beat one, so
yeah,
obviously I liked what it was doing. But I remember two feels like a completely different game. It is not just like Borderlands, but with a different story.
yeah. Which I actually realized I kind of enjoy playing Borderlands 1 a little bit more because I go through phases where I like a lot of story and I don't like a lot of story, and I'm in a I don't want plot phase. And right now, the fact that the only talking you do is when they're like, "Here's a quest," like it actually feels like Diablo, where you go, you get a quest, there's some talking while you're doing stuff, but it's mostly not there. Whereas Borderlands 2, there's a ton of talking. There's
Yeah,
all over the place. And also, you level up gun skills by using the skills in Borderlands 1 instead of buying them. And it has a far more like RPG feeling progression than the other games do because of the way the skills work and because of how you use gear and how you buy it and everything. Because the other ones kept the gear, but the way gear works feels different in Borderlands 1. Like your stats feel different. And I just like that more RPG feel. It feels kind of like not as big of a difference, but Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, you know? Like
I would agree.
that's how I feel
And
about it.
on the character thing, I absolutely agree because playing through one, they just felt like less character and more like your player character felt more like just an insert. Like
Mhm.
they weren't really a character. But then and two, all of a sudden you're like, oh, so all of these people from Borderlands one were actually characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some decisions made in Borderlands 2 that hit heavier if you play Borderlands 1. Considering how old these games are, I'm just going to say we are going to have some spoilers here. But you've been warned the games are like 10 years old. And one of those things is playing Mordecai. You got Bloodwing with you the entire game.
Yeah,
And
that was interesting.
I played Mordecai in the first game.
Hey, me too.
And I'm doing the build I didn't do. The first time I played, I did the sniper build. This time I'm doing pistols, which is way better as a build as far as like ease of play. Um, because sniper deals the damage, but pistol deals the damage while you're healing yourself, while you're getting 5 shots off at once. It's wild.
Yeah, there are some broken builds in that game.
But you have Bloodwing with you the entire time. So when they get killed in Borderlands 2, I'm like, that's when I actually wanted to stab Handsome Jack in the face. I was
I
like,
mean, you
"Oh
weren't sad
man,
when what's his face died, the soldier guy from number one.
Roland." Well
Yeah, Roland.
that happened after Bloodwing.
Yeah, but you seem to be fixated on Bloodwing, man.
Well, yeah, because they're not a person, and people
You're
suck.
like, I don't care about Roland. Roland's a guy.
Roland is a person, and
He's not a
Bloodwing is a
bird.
bird. Yeah,
Yeah.
but And that's also something that I want to do an episode on some point with, is the way that sequel storytelling can be utilized compared to not. And because a lot of people complain about constant sequels or I just want new IPs, but there's a specific type of storytelling that you can do with things that are connected that I feel is very strong if done correctly.
Yeah, yeah. If done, it sequels just. I mean, we won't get into it here, but yeah, they have to, or they don't have to, but the best ones justify themselves.
Yeah, there's a reason for making it a sequel besides just getting more money, and you can tell, at least with Borderlands 1 and 2. As the games go on, it's more and more about the fact that Borderlands just prints money. But the uh, the last thing I would like to talk about that I have consumed is not video game related at all. But I watched all of the new She-Ra within the span of 2 weeks.
By new, you mean like 3 years old or something?
Yeah, 2018, I believe, is when it first came out. It's got 5 seasons. It ended
Yeah,
in 2021 or 2020.
I heard nothing but good things about it. I have not watched it, but
So I haven't watched a cartoon that was made for children in a very long time. And there are some things that I had to remember. One, the humor was going to be the humor. There's nothing really I could do to escape some of the silly jokes. But overall, I liked the show a lot. It I liked what they did with Shira as a character. A lot of the changes. Just one thing that I really kind of got thrown off by is, and we've talked about this not recording before, but a lot of modern children's shows, because I even compared them to stuff that I used to watch. The way it handles redemption, because obviously saying redemption is it's always been around as a concept, but like the current path of it is like these people do awful things for 4 seasons, right? Like stab babies and drop kick goats. And then season 5 happens and it's like one episode where it's like, oh man, we shouldn't trust them. And then everyone's like, all right, it's cool. They're fine. They're with us now. And I'm like, wait, hold up. They, this person, this didn't happen in the show, but this person blew up a planet and you're okay with just having Vegeta come with you, huh? Like, it's just, I get it because they want to make the characters good and they want to put them in the storyline the way they want to put them in.
yeah, and they also, I in that case, they're probably trying to teach, since it's a show for kids.
Yeah,
It's about like giving people second chances and forgiveness and et cetera, et cetera.
right. And I also don't think that that's always a good thing to teach people. Sometimes it is, but you shouldn't forgive people no matter what, and that's the kind of lesson that gets taught.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
some
there
things
should
are just
be
not forgivable.
some
Yeah,
the wiggle room on both sides of it, but
yeah, of course. Because like forgiving is cool, and one of my favorite characters in the show is the one that got forgiven. Is the one that I'm focusing on right now. And so I was happy to see more of them interact with the heroes in a way that wasn't them trying to kill each other. But
I will say real quick, I think part of it, it's not
mhm,
necessarily even forgiveness. It's more like moving on, because it's like
yeah,
at some point you're just like, I you know it is easier for me to just ignore the fact that this person has done these things, and because they have to. So like with Vegeta, it's like he's one of the Z fighters, and they need him around, and he's in a relationship with Bulma, and he has kids. So it's like at some points it's like I'm not forgiving him, and I'm not saying he's redeemed, but like he's here, and it actively makes my life worse to constantly hold him accountable. So I'm just gonna not.
yeah. So here's the deal, right? If they did that, that would be awesome. Like if they made that a point, but they don't.
Yeah, I know.
They say they forgive the people. Like it's
What it is it's people who are not part of the main cast are not actually, they don't matter. So the fact that he blew up a stadium of faceless people, they just don't matter.
yeah. The fact that these people are not on the tin means they don't matter at all. But overall, I was really happy that I watched it. And there's a particular group of people that did not enjoy it for certain reasons, and those people are dumb. And part of
They
those
usually are.
reasons are the representation part of it. You know, there's gay couples and there's lesbians and
How dare we have a variety of characters?
Oh man, of different shapes and sizes and identities. How dare we? We all need to just be straight white men.
I mean, it
The
works for me. No,
Oh,
I'm
shut the
kidding.
hell up.
I'm kidding.
Um,
It actually doesn't work for me because I don't want media just full of other people like me. But
yeah, yeah,
that's
no,
not actually interesting.
that's funny. I uh, I really did enjoy that, and I actually enjoyed the current Masters of the Universe as well, that a lot of people were dumping on because of decisions that were made,
Yeah, I mean, I
and
thought it was fine.
yeah, like it wasn't the best,
People
but it was pretty alright. Yeah,
we talked about the numerical things. People these days tend to, if something's not like, you know, if a new He-Man isn't like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, they're gonna like shit all over it. And I'm like, to be fair, the old He-Man was not a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, and also the show is fine. You
yeah.
know,
There's a reason why I'm not going to rewatch it or Thundercats. There's a very specific reason that gets to stay in 9 year old Shannon's brain, and it's not going to get touched by current age Shannon.
yeah, I mean, original He-Man, like very first He-Man run, like was garbage.
Yeah,
It was a show to sell toys.
It wasn't even
Like,
called He Man, right? It was just Masters of the Universe at the time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think honestly, I'm not an expert on it, but I did watch it at the time, and I have revisited it, and
Mhm.
it is a commercial to sell toys. It's incredibly
Yeah.
obvious.
As somebody that loves 70s mecha, I get it. And I
Yeah, yeah.
understand what it is, and that doesn't bother me that it's not good. I will watch Mazinger Z as much as I want to watch Mazinger Z.
It's
Um,
Mazinger, okay.
all right. All right.
I broke you. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, because it's Majin, so Mazinger. That's fine. That just means you have to now pronounce every Japanese word correctly. And
Oh no, I will
yeah,
intentionally mispronounce them,
uh huh.
and just that's my gimmick, you see.
Yeah, I see. So yeah, that was it. That's pretty much all that I've been up to, and I just want to bring up again a big part of why we haven't been recording is the holidays have been very busy. My job got incredibly busy over the holidays, and Brian has their recent family
I mean,
situation.
I've
Yeah,
also been procrastinating and lazy is not the right word, but avoiding doing it. So that's on me. But yeah, hopefully this is the start of us doing it more regularly.
absolutely. And with that, there's not really too much more to go over. So why don't we tell everybody where you can find us?
Oh yeah, I guess they probably don't know since we haven't put out an episode in like 4 months.
Yes.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and all the things. If you can't find me on a thing, it's because I'm not on the thing. Because same name on everything, Brian C Nerd. Like Brian letter C Nerd. Um, and all those things. And where can they find you? Which is more important because you actually do stuff on the internet like stream.
Yeah, so I only have Twitter as far as social media goes, and that is Teeps the Great. And my Twitch name is also Teeps the Great. The Great.
The great.
I'm now Shawit from Trials of Mana.
Oh,
Um
oh God.
so yeah, it's just twitch.tv/Teeps the Great. I am back to streaming. I did take about a month and a half off due to the holidays. Like I said today, I was supposed to play Mario RPG. I played 15 minutes and was like, man, I'm really not feeling this today. So I went ahead and played through Skyblazer very slowly. Took me an hour. Terrible. Awful.
Wait, you played
Um
through the whole game in an hour? That
yeah.
doesn't seem that bad. I haven't played that in forever though.
Okay, so like I'm doing that thing where like I I learned some speed strats and have been trying to do that for a while, and then I haven't played it for like half a year. So I used to like I got it under like 55 minutes without using zips and stuff, which is pretty good. And then to go back and get to where I was. But for like the normal person, the game takes like 3 hours. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, but yeah, if you are actually trying to do it as quickly as possible, an hour seems like a lot.
yeah, which I was kind of doing in the middle. I was kind of casually doing some things. I had a really, really good Ashura fight, which I usually mess up because there are a couple of really frame dependent things that you need to do and not die to go fast, and I did it. So that was great. But yeah, Skyblazer, really fun game. Like I said, it's kind of like Demon's Crest, where if you're into retro Super Nintendo stuff, you know what it is. If you're not, you probably don't, but you should look into it. It's a very enjoyable game. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm on Twitch. I play video games, typically old things or RPGs or fighting games. And that is that.
Awesome.
Mhm.
All right. Well, hopefully the next time they hear us will be not too long from now, and it'll be the first of those talking about misplaced year or whatever we're going to be calling these. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I wish we could call it like Misplaced Millennium, but we're not doing 1,000 years. So
yeah. So yeah, they'll hear us. When we do our misplaced 1990.
absolutely. So thank you everybody for listening. I hope that your day is bountiful and wonderful, and have a good one.
Later.